just joining us, if you wouldn't mind just posting a hello in the chat so that I know that we've got some folks here tonight or this morning, depending on where you are in the world. And it will be great to see who is joining us today on this fresh start to a new week. So I hope everyone's week is getting off to a great start. If you had some days off for holiday last week, then I hope you were able to get a little bit of rest and relaxation, maybe even some creative time in there as well. So we are joined today also by the wonderful Orem, and Orem is also training some new folks as well. So a big hello to Orem, who we know and love, and also a big welcome to the new folks who will be joining us as well. Cece is joining from Sweden. Hi, Cece. It's nice to see you. And Jennifer is here. Hi, Jennifer. Great to see you. Andrea from beautiful New Orleans, good to see you as well. And Orem is reminding us, as many of us know, don't forget that if you're sharing today's live while we are live, you can be in for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. So do be sure and share and then post in the comments that you shared, and Orem will select a winner, lucky winner at the end of tonight's session. We've got folks joining us from the UK and also from New Zealand, from Florida, Sydney, Australia. This is fantastic. It's great to see everyone. I hope you are all doing really well. My name is Sarah, and I'm just very happy to be here with you today. What we're going to do is a little bit of stamping, some easy, simple card making. I've got a brand new stamp set, new to me, that I want to share with you, and also a couple of easy ways to color it. So I'm going to show you the stamp set that we're working with today. This is the Build a Flower Fuchsia, and we'll be getting into this in more detail today, but this is what the stamp set looks like. So because it's a Build a Flower, you've got lots of different layering options on here. Of course, there is a layering guide on the back too, so you can kind of see the finished result that you'll be able to get. There are two fuchsia flowers, and then also some leaves and a little bud that you can see down here at the bottom. You've also got some simple stems, and it's a really easy set to put together. So we're going to be working with that today. We also have a coordinating die set to go along, so we'll be talking a little bit about using that. And then although there are words and sentiments in here, there's a big, beautiful thank you on there. And there's also some coordinating words, so you could stamp thank you, you are awesome, thank you so much for everything you do, for always being there. You've got lots of options there. We also are going to be playing with one of my new must-haves, which is the signature words dies. So you've got a scripty hello, thanks, and congrats. And I was using that on a couple of the cards that I'll show you tonight. These are just, I'm reaching for them time and time again. They're so delicate and pretty, and they're just really a perfect size. So they work great on lots of different cards, and it's just a beautiful scripty little sentiment. So that's what we will be doing today. We're going to look at a couple of different ways to color the fuchsia. So as you can see from the back, that you can stamp to color in the images, but because you can also do some really beautiful coloring just in a black stamped image, then we'll take a look at some ways to do that as well. So hello to everybody who I missed as you are jumping in. Carol is here. I see Jackie is here. You guys are saying hello to each other, which is great. So really, really big welcome to everyone. Okay, so I am going to change my camera, and we'll be able to see my work surface. As tidy, this is as tidy as it gets, guys. You can't see the rest of it because it looks like a disaster zone. It's been very, very busy around here lately. So I've got lots of stuff everywhere. So we're going to start taking a look at how to color this in sort of the way that you're quote unquote supposed to be coloring it, which is to stamp the outline in black, and then to stamp in some of the layering in here. It's a really, really easy way to do it. So I'll show you how I've done this using some inks and doing the coloring in method. So what I'm going to start with, I've got my cardstock in my MISTI here, and I think you guys can see this pretty well. Kind of scoot this up to the side. Maybe that's a little bit easier. And I'm going to start with my stem or branch, not a branch, but a stem. And you have two options with this. So you can do the black line, and then you can also fill it in with a separate green stamped fill in if you want to. I find that I'm doing just fine just by using the black and white, kind of just keeping it simple. So you can do either option. I find that this works just fine though. I'm going to tap that down into place. Make sure that I've got that going on there. And then I'm going to ink this up using my Obsidian pigment ink. So this is kind of my go-to black ink. This is the one, I think I've used it faithfully in every live, in every video, in every class since I got it. So it's definitely my go-to. So I've got a really pretty, easy line going on here. And then what I'll do is start adding my other stems and flowers. Now, because some of these elements can get lost in my messy work area, I have an extra clear acrylic block. I just keep it to one side and I put my stamps on here as I'm working with them, and then I can clean them and then pop them all back onto the liner. So that's kind of like my holding place. Now for the extra stems, I'm just going to use, again, one of these little guys. Now for this, the smaller elements, I like to use my clear acrylic block. So normally I'm working a lot on my MISTI, which is great, especially for layering. But for these little guys, I just find it works just a bit easier. Oops, when I have my smaller elements on a block. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pop two of these down here. So you can see I've got my bits hanging down, my stems hanging down. And then again, just pop this onto my extra block. Now I can add in my flowers. So I'm going to use the large one here, and then I'll also use the smaller one down here. So I'm going to pop this one off and position this so that I've got the top of the flower right at the end of this portion. And then I'm just, since I'm doing my black stamping in one go, I'm going to go ahead and use this guy too. And actually what I'll do, I'll put the shorter one over here and the longer one here. So they're just a slightly different size. Gives some nice variety. Okay. And then again, ink this up. And close it. I love the style of these flowers. I just think they're so pretty. Really kind of a modern twist, but they do have a really soft and gentle look to them. Again, if you wanted to stop right here, you would have beautiful images to do some coloring with, but we're going to go ahead and just color our stamps using the layering technique. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside. Now I'm going to start with this larger image here. And what I need to do, again, following the layering instruction on the layering guide that you have on your packaging. And by the way, the packaging gives you loads of ideas and examples and lots of really great hints and tips on different colors that you can use to do your stamping with. So you can see here, now that I've stamped this in black, what I'll need to do is find 3 shades of a color. So you can see here, light pink, medium pink, and a dark pink to create this shading effect. And then 2 shades of another color for the centerpiece of the flower. And then really hard to see this here. It's light yellow, but that's to do the final detail on this. So for this one, I'm going to use 3 shades of pink for my flower. And I'm going to be working with Frosty Pink as my light, Coral Bliss as my medium, and Vineyard Berry as my darker or detailed layer. So let's start with that Frosty Pink. And you're going to just pull that silhouette layer off here and pop it down into place. This is where the Misty comes in handy. You can kind of scoop things around. Now, while we're doing that one, I'm also going to do the same portion here. So that's this layer right here. Again, the silhouette. So we can do these in one go, I think. I'm going to have a try at it. Okay, so then close this up. And ink this up with the lightest color. And that is the Frosty Pink. Okay, and then close that up as well. And I've got a really soft and pretty pink on here. Now, if you want it a little bit more intense, of course, you can keep everything in place and simply ink it up again with that same color and close this. And then you've got just a little bit more intensity on there. So that's with your first layer. So I'm going to put these back. And now I can go with my medium pink color. So again, I'm going to need to go with my medium layer here and then another one down here as well. So just working along, it's pretty easy to tell on the stamp set. And let's see, pop this in place. And then my second layer. And I'll pop this in place as well. Okay, now this one, I'm going to be working with the Coral Bliss. And so that's my medium layer. Again, just simply close this up. And ink it up with the Coral Bliss. And go ahead and close that. And there you can start to see a little bit more of that dimension on there. So this is the beautiful part of these stamps, is when you can start to see that shading and dimension on here. Okay, now my third layer is going to be, I've got one here for the large flower and then one here for the smaller one. And this I can use with my darkest color, which is going to be Vineyard Berry. So I'll scoot this into place. Hang on, try and scoot that into place. And this one here. This is one of those stamp sets where I think if you go off position a little bit, it still looks nice. So I wouldn't worry about it being too perfect. But in this case, I'm going to be working with the Vineyard Berry. Okay. And ink this up. And then I'll go ahead and close this as well. So there you can really start to see how we're getting some detail and dimension in there. Now all I need to do is go for the center area. And that's going to be, again, using 2 shades of another color. And I went with purples for these, for this portion. So I'm just getting my pieces back in place. And for this, for the larger one, I'm going to pull these 2 elements. Now, there's only 2. It's a kind of silhouette shape and then a detail. And then I've got the same down at the bottom. So basically, it's the very same layering option for both flowers. They're just slightly different sizes. Okay, so this is going to be our larger stamp. Get that into place, and then our smaller one. And for these 2, I'm going to be working with some lavenders. Okay, just edge that into place. This may be another good one to use my block with, but I think I can do it here. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use 2 lavender colors. I'm going to be working with Lavender Fields and Deep Iris. Now, these are some of the older packaging. You can tell this is some of the newer labels. So these are 2 that have lasted me a long time. It's a little bit trickier to see the color from the package, but you'll be able to see it when I stamp it. So I'm going to go with the lighter color first and pop that down. And of course, that's going to fit in there perfectly. So that was the Lavender Fields. And then my next layer will be the very detailed ones. And that's going to be in Deep Iris. So I'm going to scoot this one into place. And same with my detail later on here. You can start to see how easily these come together. It is a really beautiful set and a really beautiful design. Okay. Got my iris. And go ahead and close that up as well. Okay, now the last elements that I can color in are these 2 little detail portions here on the flower. And there's not really much layering to do with that other than simply stamping it in. So you can see there's one for the large flower and one for the smaller one. Now this one I am going to use my block for these, and I'm going to use a yellow. So this time I'm going to use fresh lemon and just ink this up and kind of position it in place. Really nice, just extra little bit of detail. And of course, you can skip any of these layering options if you want to. You can have it without the shading. You could leave this just black and white. Same thing for any of the stems on here, or even the little tops of the flowers too. But I'll show you where that element is. I'm just going to stamp this down. So I've got my yellow in here. And the last portion I'm going to do is this little tiny top of the flower. Now those are up here, and it's a little bit tricky to see, but there's one here for the large flower and there's one here for the small flower. Now, if you wanted to, you could also, of course, just grab a pen or a colored pencil to stamp that in if you wanted to. I'm just going to grab my Minty Mint and stamp this in to fill it in. That's pretty quick and easy. So there's that. And then I'll grab the other little one too. And again, do that with my mint. There we go. So I've got my flower ready to go. Now, what I can also do is work in some leaves. And I think I will do that. I wanted to give you a chance to see this a little bit more up close so you can see those really easy colors on there. And it's just simple and beautiful. I really, really like it. So the next thing I'm going to do is add in some of my leaves. Now the leaves, you've got two leaf options, one which is over here and then a second one over here. And they are also layering leaves as well. So you've got an outline, you've got a silhouette, and you've got a detail element in here too. So I'm gonna grab the outline, again, working on my block. And I'll stamp this with the obsidian. And I'm just going to, whoops, that didn't go perfectly, but I think you can get the sense of it. Just going to add some of those here. Now that's with the black. To fill it in, I'm going to use layers of green. So come in with my silhouette, and for this, I'll use the Minty Mint again. And pop that color down and do the same over here. So there's my mint. And then with my detail layer, I'm going to use the sweet leaf for this. So slightly darker green. Okay, scoot that over. And there we go. So you've got some easy options there and a really sweet little motif. So again, I'll kind of hold this up so that you can see a little bit better. Now with this, of course, we've done both of the flowers. We've done a couple of the leaves. If you wanted to then work in the thank you, which is what I did here, that fits on really easily. I've got a little mini card here. This one's about 3 by 5. It's a petite card, and I've added in some of the satin gold sequins as well as that thank you. And then I just put this entire piece up on foam tape and put it onto the front of my card. So really simple and easy to do. Great fun to add in a couple of dimensional embellishments, but it is just a really sweet and elegant design. I just love the sketchy kind of look of it and how easy it is to color in. Okay, so that is our first card. Now I wanted to show you another kind of quick option here. So we looked at one color set, and I thought, let's take a look at another color motif. And for this one, we're going to go into some of my favorite colors, which are the blues and kind of a teal color. So I'm just going to grab one of the fuchsia flowers, and I'm going to stamp this one again with the obsidian ink. And this time I'm not going to do all of the layers. And I just kind of want to show this to you in a different color scheme. So that's the fuchsia. Now I'm going to pull the large top. And this one, I'm just going to stamp once. And I'm going to do this using Aqualicious, which is one of my favorite colors. Many of you know. This is one I go to again and again. We'll pop that down. And then, whoops, then for the bottom portion, I'm going to, actually, I'm going to go ahead and do the second layer on this. I'll use a slightly darker teal color for this. Let's do the teal cave. So I've got my teal cave, and this will give a little bit of extra dimension. Okay, we'll pop that down. And then for the bottom portion of the flower, this one I'm only going to do once. And this one I'm going to stamp with cotton candy, which is a really pale pink. So grab my cotton candy. This is a favorite one. This is a great layering color, by the way. Okay, and then ink that up. So you can do some of the layers, you can do all of the layers, but you've got lots of different options with that. And that's one thing that I really like about this. So in this case, I've just gone for 2 teals on the top and 1 pink toward the bottom. I just left this portion and the top white. So you can go ahead and do that as well. Now, what I would need to do if I wanted to die cut this, of course, is just grab my die, grab the right die for this. I've got them all in a little bucket over here. Here we go. I think I found it. And simply run that through my die cutting machine. I use a little bit of masking tape to hold everything down. And then I will have a piece that looks like this. So I've popped this up onto foam tape. I've also added a stamped and die cut portion of the stem. So let's take a look at this. I'll move aside my stamp positioner and bring in kind of part of a card that I've already done. Now this has some gray spattering on the back. It's got some of the white satin sequins, satin white, excuse me, sequins. And if I take this and I've got it again up on some foam tape and just kind of pop that down here, and it really does add a nice little touch. So let's also work in some of our leaves. We've got some leaves that I've stamped only 1 layer of green and die cut. And then you've got a really nice image. Now here again, this congrats is one of the word dies that I was telling you about. And that's just die cut from black and popped down here at the bottom. So again, a really fun way just to add some quick and easy color and charm to a card. Okay, so this is how you can stamp the fuchsia as you're supposed to. Well, use my air quotes for this, using the various colors of ink. But there are other ways that you can color them too. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so bring in once again my white cardstock here. And with this card, it's going to be a little bit tricky to see maybe. But for here, I've got a variety of colors. This is actually working with not the inks, but some of my favorites, the watercolor brush markers. Now this is the Tropical Fiesta set, and you can see all of the beautiful colors in here. Of course, this technique will work with any of your watercolor brush markers, but this is the set that I've been playing a lot with lately. So in this case, I've been working with 2 of the kind of pinky purple colors, purple wine and crimson. I also used, I think I used sweet leaf on those leaves there. So let's take a look at this process. I'm going to do some quick stamping, and then we'll get into coloring. Bring back my Misty here. And in this case, it's really important when you're working with a wet medium like a water brush marker, or you're painting in some stamped images, to use not a dye-based ink. So don't use your jet black for this. Use the obsidian or something that will not run and smear when you start stamping when you start coloring in your images. Okay, so once again, I'm just going to put this stem down here and kind of press that into place. Hope to pick it up. This is a stubborn little guy. Okay, let's see how we can do this. Okay, we're just going to stick him on like this. He doesn't want to cooperate today. That's okay. All right, so I've got my stem in place, and I'll go ahead and ink that up with my black. And I'm just going to start creating a scene on here. So get this off and then use my shorter stems as we've done before. And kind of pop this down here. And add in my fuchsia. I think I'll put one here. And I've got one kind of at the end. Now, in addition to these, I've also got a little bud. This one right here. And this is a really fun kind of filler element. So I'm going to pop this guy down too. Right up here. Put those down in place and inking up. This set is really fun for creating a lot of foliage on a card. So if you like to have a lot of color and a lot of imagery on your cards, this is a really great set. But also, wonderfully, you can also do a really minimalist style of card. Okay, so I'll pop that down here. Now I also want to have some elements that are kind of coming down. And pop these up here and have them going off the top. Of my design. So move that here. And I'm going to add in a few leaves and then I think we will be ready to color. Okay, so these can go down here. Quickly clean the stamps off, put them on my spare block, and then bring in my leaves. And as before, I'll just go ahead and use my acrylic block for this one. Let's see. I'll put this guy like so. And maybe have something going off the side here. This is a really fun one, fun set to have kind of going off your edges as well. So that's one of the leaves. Let's take a look at the other one. And let's see. We'll have this one going the other direction. And maybe, let's see. We'll put that like so. Okay. So we have lots of leaves. We have lots of flowers. We are ready to color in. I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to clean off my Misty with my excess ink on there before I put my hand into it. And then let's get into our markers, our water brush markers. So if you have these, then you probably already know how much fun and how slightly addicting they are. I've just had a really great time with these. Now, the great thing about them is that you've got your color right inside the barrel of the pen, and you can color straight from that. You can also, though, dilute your color when you're working on your craft mat. And I'm going to do a little bit of that as well because I wanted a really light color on here. So I'm going to start with my leaves. I've got my sweet leaf. And normally what you would do, let's see, I'm just going to grab a spare piece of cardstock here. Normally what you would do is just go ahead and color in straight from the marker itself. Now, there is a little word on here that says push. That does not mean that you need to push while you're coloring. So when you first get these, you're going to have a little plastic band in here. You'll need to unscrew this, remove the band, and then pop it back together, and then push on this to release some of your ink on here. But what I'm going to do is just work directly onto my craft sheet And I'm going to use a little bit of water here as well. And then pick up kind of a watery wash of this. So you can dilute your colors too. And I always like to remind people of that because sometimes the perfect color you already have, it's just a shade that you need to dilute. Okay, I'll add in some green here and just touch up all of those leaves. I'm not doing a perfect coloring in job. I wanted this to have a really loose and light look. Okay, so then with a little bit of that darker color, I'm going to add the tops of the flowers. There we go. And then find my cap and put this back on. And then I can just clean this up and move on to my next color. So the next color I'll work with is the crimson. And same process as before, just get a little bit onto my craft mat. Add some of my water over here. And I've cleaned off my water brush more or less. And that will be good to go with my flower. So I'm just kind of painting it in. And what you can then do, if you've got a really nice watery light wash, you can come back with the pen full force and do some detail work on here if you want to. Okay, so let's do this up here. And just kind of paint that in. So this is actually quite light. Let me come back with a little bit darker color. We'll do this little closed up bud. We'll do him a little bit darker as well. And just add in some of the shadows in here that you would normally get, just following the lines of the stamp itself. Okay, oops, forgot this one. There we go here. So already you're starting to see the color coming in here. Really, really easy way to go, and a great way to use your pens in a different way. Okay, so then the next one I'm going to work with is the purple wine. And same process as before, just squeeze a little bit of that out. Add in my water. Sort of clean off my brush as much as I want to. Don't need to be too particular about this. And come back and color in the bottom portion of my flower. And again, I'm not coloring in all the way. I'm not going all the way to the lines. I want it to have a bit more of a casual look. Okay, so fill this one in too. And again, come back with the full force and just add a little bit more dimension in here. Oops. And then you can always come back and rework. I'm not working on any special kind of paper or cardstock. It's just a smooth, heavyweight cardstock. It's comparable to the Nina Classic Crest. It's not a watercolor cardstock, although you could definitely do some really cool techniques on watercolor cardstock if you wanted to. Okay, so there is my painted in design. Now for the last portion that I wanted to show you, I've got a bit of spattering on this card, and that one is using, I think it was Warm Sunshine. So I'll show you that process. That is also one of the colors in here. No, I'm sorry, that was Sunkissed. So really gentle color. But again, I'm going to get a little bit onto my mat and dilute it, because I don't want it to be too much orange on here. And you guys have seen me do this a lot of times, but just in case you haven't, I'm holding my brush perpendicular to my piece, and I'm just going to tap it. And that's going to give me a really lovely, kind of warm, sun-kissed effect, I suppose. The names are always so appropriate. So there we go. And then I can add my message on here, die cut, or wait until this all dries and do some stamping on there as well. But you can see where all of the fuchsia coming together can create a really beautiful scene. And it gives you a lot of options for creating backgrounds or framing sentiments. There's a lot that you can do with these. Okay, I'm going to clean up my craft mat. And we'll take another look at the card that I did with this. I'm going to slide this aside because it's a little bit wet. But here, again, I've used the sentiment, the little hello die cut from black. And I've got some more of those satin gold sequins on there. They just really work as a nice touch in between all of the fuchsia flowers on there. So this is the second way to color in your beautiful stamped fuchsia flowers. So the last way that I want to show you, this is a really fun one, and maybe one that, this is maybe a product that you have on hand, have on your shelves, maybe need to get out and have another play with. So in this case, I'm working with the Altenew ink sprays, and these are metallic shimmer ink spray. I'm working with the Puffy Heart and the Mountain Mist. And normally what you would do with these, because they are spray, you can see here, is you would spray your background. And while I do that, sometimes I find that I really use these more for coloring in stamped images, just like you're seeing here. So let's take a look at this. We can see the card first of all. I'm not going to do all of the stamping like I've done on here because I think you've seen how beautifully they stamp. But this really works beautifully for a slimline card. So these are the longer, taller, narrower cards. And because this works so beautifully for cards in this orientation, I thought this would be a fun way to show you how to color in your stamped images using your ink sprays. So what I'm going to do is just stamp one of the flowers on here because, again, I know you know how beautifully they stamp, so we don't need to take a lot of time to do that. Let's see, I'll get this in place. And we'll do our stem again. You're going to have to be the boss of this stem, I think. It's going its own way. And again, ink that up with our black. And then just have that coming in from off of the side of the paper, I think is a really fun way to create a design. So we'll do that. And then let's see, let's pop this little guy down here. And I'll add a leaf on here as well, just so that we can get all of the different colors that we'll be using. These metallic ink sprays, I was having a conversation with somebody else about this the other day. They're one of those that supplies that you just find that there's so many different uses for besides the use that it was originally designed for. So that's what I really love about these. Okay, so give these a quick clean. And then again, we'll get into our coloring. So I think this will be enough stamping for us to see exactly how easy it is. Okay, so once again, I'm going to be working on my craft mat. Now, the craft mat is really one of those supplies that I use it as a palette all the time. Of course, it protects my work surface. And under here, I've got one of the Altenew cutting grids. But this is always on here and always works to protect and also works as a palette. So when I'm working with wet medium, of course, this is going to be perfect. Now with these, what you'll need to do is give them a shake until you can hear that rattling ball in there, mixing ball. Okay, looks like I've been overzealous or underzealous with keeping my lids on there perfectly. So when that mixing ball is rattling, it means that you've got your metallic shimmer in there all mixed up. So I'm just going to take off the entire cap and decant a bit of my color onto my craft sheet. Now I don't need a whole lot. I can always add more. Okay, there we go. Get our green on here too. The lid's back on, Sarah. That's my reminder to myself. And again, I'm going to add a little bit of water just in a puddle over here on the side. Grab my water brush and just pick up a bit of that green. And again, it's important when you're working with a wet medium to always do your stamping with a black that will, or with any color of ink pad, that will not smudge or smear in this case. That's the obsidian. So I would recommend that you be sure to have that on hand or something similar. Now in this case, I'm going to get two different colors from this puffy heart. I'm going to get it really, really watery and have a light, light pink for the top of my fuchsia. And again, just following the lines of this. And then I'm going to come back with slightly darker color, kind of full force color down here at the bottom. And this is really where you'll be able to see the metallic shine in here. And I know it will be tricky to see on camera, but when you see it in person, it is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to hold that up a little bit. Maybe you're able to see. It is still a little bit wet, but definitely you'll be able to see the shine on this bottom portion. And that is due to the shimmer in the spray. So when you've got that colored, stamped and colored as much as you want, let me get a fresh baby wipe to clean this up. Then all you need to do, just give your craft sheet a bit of a quick clean. Your water brush can get rinsed and will be ready to be used for something next time. And then you can see how easily this will all come together. So for this one, I've of course had elements coming in from both sides. And then again, the congrats, that is one of our little signature words, also die cut from black. Now we're just about closing out an hour, so I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do want to show you another example. Now this is one that I knocked together quite quickly. This is also using the water brush markers with some embossing on here. And the embossing, when you're coloring in, the raised edges will sort of hold in any of your wet and watery medium. So that's another option for you too. So you're able to get some really fun and very different looks, I think, from this set, as we've already seen a couple of different ways to color things in. So hopefully you have had a good time coloring and stamping with me this evening. I'm going to switch up my camera and show you just quickly one more time as we're going through our stamps. Hello again. The elements that we have been using today. So I've got, my stamps are all in various parts and pieces, and of course on my extra block here. But just as a reminder, we're working with the Build a Flower Fuchsia. We've got the stamp set, and we've also got the die set to go along. And that's what you can use to create some really fun dimensional looks, like on this little card, where you can pop things up on some foam tape. Also, we were working with my addiction, my new obsession, which is the signature words die, with these three really easy to use, fun, and scripty little sentiments on there. And they just work perfectly for so many different themes. And we've also been working with our Fiesta, tropical Fiesta, not just a Fiesta, but a tropical one. We've got the Tropical Fiesta set of the water brush markers. And again, these are a lot of fun. No matter what color set you have, you'll find yourself using them for lots of different coloring in. And then we were also playing with our shimmer sprays. So these are actually the person I was talking to the other day, we were comparing notes on how long we've actually had our shimmer sprays. And especially when you're using them just for painting in, they will go a long way. I think I've had mine for years and I use them quite regularly, but there's a lot of liquid still left in here, which is great. So that will give you options like this kind of shimmering effect. When you're working with your water brush markers, you can get a diluted look or you can go full strength if you want to. Just depends on the look that you're going for. And don't forget that you can just stamp in your image with various dye-based inks and use all of those fantastic colors together like we've done here. So I do thank you so very much for joining me this afternoon or this evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. You've got about another minute. If you have not shared today's video while we're live, be sure and do hit the share button and let us know that, that you are sharing, and that will give Orem and her two elves tonight a chance to pull a lucky winner for a $15 gift certificate to the Altenew store. And I want to say a big thank you to Orem and to her two helpers tonight. And it's always a pleasure to have you guys on board as well. So thank you again for joining me. I wish you a very, very happy new year. I will see you back in the new year for more lives. Hopefully you're also joining in for some of the classes that we're doing with Altenew. Got a couple of those coming up as well. So if you enjoy the free lives, you'll probably also enjoy some of the classes that Altenew is doing too. So give those a look. I think those are showing up mostly in the newsletter. So if you don't get the newsletter, you may want to sign up for that. Although I have to say, enabler alert, you'll find all kinds of great Altenew stuff that hands up that you will want immediately. So that's just my warning label to you. Hopefully I will see you again very soon. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I will catch you again next time. Take care, everybody.